Hello dear friends, welcome to the discussion of John Dryden. He is also one of the critics from neoclassical period. He was lived between 1631 and 1700. Please look into the works written by John Dryden so that you can understand the features of his writing, the style of his writing. He was a poet, dramatist, prose writer too, as well as the critic. He was the founder of modern prose style. His major works of criticism are prefaces and epilogues. Okay, he has written both prefaces and epilogues. There we can find his criticism. The major works are Essay of Dramatic Poesy, Essay on Satire. Essay on Satire is preface to translation of Juvenal's satires. Then Essay on Heroic Tragedy. That is the preface to The Conquest of Granada. Then Essay on Fables. This is an appreciation of Chaucer. Okay, these are the critical works written by or contributed by John Dryden. Remember all these works. And the only formal work of criticism that he has left behind him is his essay on dramatic poesy that we are going to discuss in detail how he is presenting rules and regulations and how he is commenting on others. So many things that we are going to see in this work, dramatic poesy. Yes. Dryden as the father of English criticism. Dr. Johnson called him the father of English criticism. With the exception of the essay on dramatic poesy, Dryden's criticism is embodied in the innumerable prefaces that we have seen, epilogues and letters of dedication which he prefixed to his poetic and dramatic works all through his long literary career. Because of his style and the way he criticized, Dr. Johnson called him the father of English criticism. He says, Dryden taught us to determine upon principles the merit of composition. How to criticize a work of art. That is what Dryden taught us. Johnson said, okay, Dr. Johnson said about Dryden, taught us to determine upon principles the merit of composition. From Dryden and his works begins of modern English prose style. He was the first self-conscious critic in English. He is criticized as others as well as himself, his own works. Analyzed literature with sympathy and knowledge. Not only sympathy, not only knowledge. He is combining both sympathy and as well as knowledge. Dealt with all kinds of literary problems. He is not only concentrating on one part, but concentrating on all literary problems. Anti-dogmatic and skeptical. He is not prejudiced while he is criticizing something. Anti-dogmatic and skeptical. He is looking through each and every work in the perspective of skeptical. Descriptive, not prescriptive criticism. He recommends descriptive. Unlike Johnson and Sidney, Dryden did not lay down rules. He was, liberalist in his writing, so he did not lay down any rules. But Dr. Johnson and Sidney laid down the rules. But he discovered rules through practice. He gives more emphasis on practice, not stick to somebody's rules. So that is what about Dryden's criticism and rules, means his criticism. He produced the first critical analysis of a literary work in English. For the first time, he analyzed a work of art, literary work of art, that is Ben Jonson's The Silent Woman or Epicene. Epicene is another title of this work. This is a play, The Silent Woman. For the first time, critical analysis, very important. Please mark down this. Affirmed the native element in English literature. He affirmed to native elements rather than to any classical or other literary elements. He is a pioneer of historical criticism. Different ages, different literary conventions are there. Literature is not static but evolving, he says. It develops throughout the ages. It doesn't, it is not a stagnant thing. It goes on improve. And also pioneer of comparative criticism. He compared English and French plays and talks about merits and demerits. And also pioneer of liberal classicism. I told you already that he didn't lay down any rules, but he analyzes or criticizes any work of art through practice. No slavish adherence to rules. Justified violation of unities. He doesn't recommend for 3 unities. Unity of time, unity of action, unity of place. It doesn't want to stick to these 3 classical unities that laid by Aristotle, are classical unities. He defends tragic comedy. Aristotle defends tragedy. He gives more importance to tragedy, whereas Dryden is defending tragic comedy, the mixture of tragedy and comedy. He says, no blind obedience to rules. No one should blindly follow the rules. That is dangerous to any analysis or criticism. So, violation of 3 unities. Because of violation of 3 unities, there one can have variety and richness of plot. If you stick to unity of action, there must be only one action and all the characters or the main character sticks to that. If you violate these 3 unities, you can have plots, subplots, varieties of characters. That is what variety and richness of plot. He prefers irregular English plays over regular French plays. It defends tragic comedy. The primary aim of poetry, according to Dryden, the primary aim of poetry is to delight. Instruction is secondary. What did Aristotle say? Aristotle says the aim of poetry is to delight and instruction. Both are important. But here Dryden says the aim of poetry is to delight. So that is the first aim. Instruction is secondary. He goes against Aristotle by preferring epic to tragedy. Tragedy is recommended by Aristotle. He chooses tragedy over epic, Aristotle. Whereas Dryden prefers epic rather than tragedy against Aristotle. His criticism is free from neoclassical prejudices in his appreciation of Chaucer's characterization. He didn't stick to the rules of neoclassical age, but he is freely analyzing the characters by Chaucer. Free from prejudices, appreciated Chaucer's realism and characterization. So that you can see his liberal criticism. Let's go through the works. Just I am giving you a brief note on essay on satire and other works, but we are going to study in detail on dramatic poesy, essay and dramatic poesy. Okay, please do have your own research on these works so that you can have a vast knowledge regarding these. Essay on satire. This is written as a preface to translation of Juvenal's satires. Its the aim of satire is the correction of manners. Correction of manners of an individual or any society. He preferred Horace over Juvenal. He is comparing. We have learned he is also comparative critic, right? Here he is comparing Horace to Juvenal. Horace is also one of the critics and Juvenal too. He is comparing both of them here. He raised English satire to the level and dignity of epic. ಅರಿಸ್ಟಾಟಲ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಪ್ಲೇಟೋ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದರ್ ಕ್ರಿಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಸಟೈರನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಕೀಳು ಅಂತ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆದರೆ ಡ್ರೈಡನ್ ಅದನ್ನು ಏನು ಈ ರೈಸಸ್ ದ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಟೈರ್ ಟು ದಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಪಿಕ್. ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಮರ್ಯಾದೆ ಗೌರವವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. Next one is essay on heroic tragedy. This is the preface to The Conquest of Granada. This is a play, The Conquest of Granada. He says, heroic play is imitation of heroic poem. Hence, to be judged along Aristotelian rules of tragedy. He prefers heroic tragedy. Heroic tragedy means what? It is also an English drama form featuring almost superhuman protagonists are there with immense courage. They are often in love with beautiful heroines whose noble actions are driven by conflicting demands of honor, love and country, leading to disaster. That is what heroic tragedy. And he prefers heroic tragedy and compares the tragedy of Aristotle. This is also imitation of heroic poem. Heroic play is nothing but imitation of heroic poem judged by Aristotelian rules of tragedy, means it is equal to Aristotle's tragedy. Written in heroic verse. Must have dignity, majesty, grandeur of a heroic poem. Two lines are there. So, heroic tragedy, essay and heroic tragedy themes are love and valor. Valor means courage. Functions, he talks about functions also. Arouse admiration, not Aristotelian pity and fear. In Aristotle's tragedy, he recommends that tragedy arouses pity and fear, but heroic tragedy is arousing admiration. It can conclude improbable and marvelous, means supernatural. ಯಾವುದು ಆಗುವಂಥ ಸಂಭವಿಸುವಂಥದ್ದಲ್ಲವೋ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಇಂಪ್ರೊಬೇಬಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಪ್ರೊಬೇಬಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಆಗಬಹುದಾದಂತಹ. ರೈಟ್. ಡ್ರಾಮಾಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದಿ ಇಂಪ್ರೊಬೇಬಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದಿ ಮಾರ್ವೆಲಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ heroic tragedy play. That is what he says in essay on heroic tragedy. Then essay on fables. This is the preface to translations from Ovid, Homer, Boccaccio and Chaucer. He describes how a small project developed into a full-fledged book First he begins with Ovid, then he comes to Homer, then he started to write about Boccaccio, ends with Chaucer, then it becomes a huge work. He started with Homer's Iliad, then Ovid's Metamorphoses, Boccaccio's Decameron, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Then translate Ovid also. He translated Ovid's Metamorphoses, Chaucer's 5 tales, Boccaccio's 3 tales from Decameron. Dryden is comparing the writings here. He becomes a comparative critic, as I told you before. Examples of comparative criticism. Here we can see he examined varied literature of Greece, Rome, Italy and England. Like all these. He compared Chaucer with Ovid as well as Boccaccio. Chaucer is English poet. Right. He compares him with Ovid and Boccaccio. And also he compared Homer with Virgil. And the analysis is given in Essay on Fables. This is one of the critical works by Dryden. So, Essay on Fables continued further. His appreciation of Chaucer is important here. He appreciates, he says, Chaucer is a perpetual fountain of good sense, learned in all sciences and therefore speaks properly on all subjects. He was an intellectual person. He has good sense, a good humor. He draws each and every character from all the stratas of society. He talks about Chaucer's characterization also. Chaucer has taken into the compass of his Canterbury Tales the various manners and humors of the whole English nation of his age. ಅಂದರೆ ಅವನ ಕಾಲದ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ಗುಣಗಳನ್ನು ಅವನೇನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ತನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾಂಟರ್ಬರಿ ಟೇಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ರಾಜನನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಭಿಕ್ಷುಕನನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇನ್ನಿದ್ದ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕ್ಯಾಂಟರ್ಬರಿ ಟೇಲ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಬಹುದು. ಐ ಹೋಪ್ ಯು ರೆಡ್ ದಟ್. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರೀಡ್. ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಯು ಟು attend KSET exam or NET exams too. Characters individualized in looks and inclinations. And he studied physiognomies according to the character's age and their manner and their status. He has given the dressing style too. If you go through the preface to Canterbury Tales, there you can see the physiognomy. ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಉಡುಗೆ ತೊಡುಗೆಗಳನ್ನು ತೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಸೊಸೈಟಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಾಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟ ಹಾಗೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, what is it, a nun, how a nun should be. So simple, saree or a simple presentation oneself, right? So that is what he discusses. Wife of Bath, she is sensuous. Like that, he has discussed many characters. Please study that. It talks about style and tale suit the character. He says characters style and tale, they suit the character. Dryden says about Canterbury Tales, it has rich variety. Here is God's plenty. It is about Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. In language and versification, considered Chaucer a rough diamond that should be refined and polished. These are all quotations taken from Dryden's analysis or criticism or Comparative criticism. Please do note down. Chaucer is a rough diamond that should be refined and polished. You can get a question regarding Chaucer's Canterbury Tales or Chaucer's analysis by Dryden, who says Chaucer, a rough diamond that should be refined and polished. Here's God's plenty. Style and tales suit the character. Like this, you will get quotations. And a perpetual fountain of good sense. Who said a perpetual fountain of good sense about whom? Learned in all sciences and therefore speaks properly on all subjects. ಈ ರೀತಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಬರಬಹುದು and as well as in your examinations too. Then comes important critical work, essay of dramatic poesy or essay on dramatic poesy, written in 1668. The same year he becomes the poet laureate in 1668. What was the occasion that he has written this work? Sorbet Frenchman criticized English science and stage in their court. To answer him, Dryden replied through his work, Essay of Dramatic Poesy, and also debated with Robert Howard, Crites on rhyme. Brother-in-law, I think. Robert Howard is brother-in-law, Dryden's brother-in-law, and he is named as Crites. And he argued with Robert Howard about on rhyme. So it is in the form of dialogue. Dialogue means what? ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ನೀವು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ, ನೀವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಉತ್ತರ. ಅಂದರೆ ಇಬ್ಬರು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳು ಮಾತನಾಡೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವರ್ಕ್ ಇದು. Essay on dramatic poesy. Like Plato's Republic. Aristotle also has written 22 or 26 dialogues. Even Plato's Republic in the form of dialogue. Socrates and others. Right? Here you can see free give and take of ideas. There are arguments, demonstrates the superiority of moderners over ancients, Restoration English dramatists over earlier English and Europeans, and rhyme over blank verse of drama. He especially Dryden proposes or Dryden defends moderners, Restoration English dramatists, and rhyme over ancients, earlier English or Europeans, and blank verse. It means Dryden likes moderners, English drama and rhyme. Okay, so I have given in short points. He is not at all a rigid critic. There is no rigid conclusion. Leaves decisions to readers. After all reading all these discussions, you will come to conclusion whether it is whether the moderners are good or the ancients, whether the Restoration English dramatists are good or others, like that. Readers will come to conclusion. It left to them. There are 4 characters. The dialogues are taken place between the 4 characters. So the 4 characters are symbolic figures representing popular ideas of the day. They represent Crites represent ancients, Eugenius represent moderners, Lycidius represents French, Neander represents English. Who is Crites here? Howard, Robert Howard, his brother-in-law. Eugenius, these are all the symbolic characters and these are the real characters. Okay, Sack will represent Eugenius, Sidley represents Lycidius, Dryden represents Neander. Neander represents Dryden. Ulta. Crites represents Harvard, Eugenius Sackville, Lycidius Sidley, Neander represents Dryden's ideas. Okay, Dryden defends English drama. Sidley represents or defends French plays. Sackville, likes moderners as whereas Robert Howard likes ancients and the three unities. Okay, please remember these four characters and their representations. First one is Crites and Eugenius, how they argue. Crites means Robert Howard. Robert Howard or Crites represents or defends ancients. He stands for ancient dramatists and their style of writing. He says classical view of drama is good. He proposes the superiority of past age. He expounds the extreme classical view. And he says or maintains the superiority of the previous age, means classical age. He attacks on rhyme. That is the style of writing and he attacks on it. He doesn't like rhyme, it means. Whereas Eugenius says, which means Charles Sackville. Okay, Charles Sackville. Eugenius represents Charles Sackville's opinions. Eugenius defends moderners, modern writers. He says, moderners have the advantage of the experience as well as advantage of experience as well as the rules made by ancients. So they can create on their own with the experience of the ancient writers. Ancient writers laid down some rules and regulations and writing styles and this and that, right? With that experience, they can write modern works. So moderners are superior according to Eugenius. Eugenius says against classical dramatists. He says ancient plays neither delight nor instruct. They are boring. You can only cry in front of those dramas. You don't get delight or pleasure, or they don't give you moral lessons according to Eugenius. Moderners added many new features to poetry. You can get delight as well as instructions and they are very pleasant. So moderners with a lot of experience, they can add new features, rhyme and other things. Music, rhyme, blank verse. I don't know whether he recommends. Please do some more research on these. Next comes Lycidius. Okay, Lycidius means Charles Sedley, right? So Crites, Robert Howard, Eugenius, Charles Sackville, Lycidius, Charles Sedley. Lycidius defends French plays. Upholds three unities. Three unities, you know that, right? Unity of action, unity of time, unity of place. That is what three unities. Upholds all these three unities, which means French plays followed these three unities. So they are superior to others. That is what Lycidius' argument. The English are not true to nature. He criticized the English. They are not true to nature, By making a play delightful, they make it ridiculous. See, Eugenius is defending English and says English plays are poetry, giving both delight and instruction. But Lycidius says by making it by making a play delightful, ಪ್ಲೆಷರ್ ಕೊಡೋ ಒಂದು ಅಥವಾ ಎಂಟರ್ಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಡಿಲೈಟ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂಥ ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಹಾಸ್ಯಾಸ್ಪದವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ರೈಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಯಾರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ? ಲೈಸಿಡಿಯಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Against that, he defends or he proposes the superiority of French plays. In French plays, there is no multiplicity of action and incident in French plays, he says. Multiplicity means, French plays follow unity of action, right? Unity of place and unity of time, which means there is no digression. ಆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಈ ಕಡೆ, ಈ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಆ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಹೋಗುವಂಥ ಸಂಭವ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದೇ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್, ಅದ್ರ ಸುತ್ತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಥೆಯು ಎಣ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ. Multiplicity is the feature of English writers. He says, in French plays, one character is exalted above the rest, but due attention is paid to every character. Which means, one is the prominent character and other characters come under that important character or protagonist. ಇಲ್ಲಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಪ್ಲೇಗಳಲ್ಲೇ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಮೊಸರನ್ನ ಚಿತ್ರಾನ್ನ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್. Whereas French plays are very simpler. There are only fewer plots. There is no sudden changes. Equal attention to all characters. The French use rhyme, which is to be preferred over English blank words. There is no sudden changes in French play. The French use rhyme, which is to be preferred over English blank words. Means English writers use blank words. French playwriters use rhyme. So he has given a famous definition about play. A play as a just and lovely image of human nature, representing its passions and humors and the changes of fortune to which it is subject for the delight and instruction of mankind. A just and a lively image of human nature, true to life, representing its passions and humors both, and the changes of fortune, reversal of action, changes of fortune to which it is subject. Human life subject to fortune, fate, for the delight and instruction of mankind. It gives both delight as well as instructions. It teaches morality. So this is the definition given by Lycidius. Next is important, neander means Dryden. ಸೊ ಡ್ರೈಡನ್ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೋ ನಿಯಾಂಡರ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಹೆಸರ ಮೂಲಕ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ನಿಯಾಂಡರ್ ಯಾರನ್ನ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ನಿಯಾಂಡರ್ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಡ್ರೈಡನ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಅರ್ಥನೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ವೈಲ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಆನ್ಸರಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್, ಸಚ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್. ಹಿಯರ್ Dryden advocates or defends English over French and ancients. Now, Lycidius defends French plays. Critics defends ancients. Right? So, ಅವರಿಬ್ರು ವಿರುದ್ಧ ನಿಯಾಂಡರ್ or Dryden defends English ಅಥವಾ English writers. English plays, he says, Dryden says, or Neander says, English plays display a richness of humor. They are rich in humor because they follow both tragic and comedy. Tragic comedy. French plots lack variety because they follow three unities. There is no richness in variety. French lacks variety. Long speeches are boring. In French plays, you can see long speeches and do not suit to the English audience. That long speeches are, long speeches do not suit the English audience. English suited to more characters because it means English writers or English dramas have variety in it with many characters and many actions, plot, subplot, another plot. There is variety and violence. They show violence on stage that suits the English audience. Even Corneille admitted. Corneille means he is one of the French playwrights. Even French playwright Corneille admitted unities are have a cramping effect. Cramping means negative effect. He himself admits that since he is a French writer. Dryden says, I admire Johnson, but I love Shakespeare. Love Shakespeare follows English writing style, whereas Ben Jonson follows other ancient or French style. So, I am not rejecting Ben Jonson's writing. I admire him, but I love Shakespeare, which gives varieties of characters, actions, and presenting violence on the stage. Dryden also analyzed for the first time a literary work that is by Ben Jonson's Silent Woman or Epicene. Neander or Dryden defends rhyme style. So, in essay on dramatic poesy or of dramatic poesy, Neander defends Shakespeare. He says about Shakespeare like this. Shakespeare had the largest and the most comprehensive soul, means he understands the human nature. He is true to his nature. He had the largest and the most comprehensive soul, which means anywhere in the world anybody can empathize with those characters or compare with Shakespeare's characters. He was naturally learned, not through books but by the reading of nature and all her images. By reading the society and its characters, he takes the characters from the real life he presents in his dramas. He looked inward and found her there. Inward means in the nature. Found her there. So, he catches the pulse of nature and he presents that in his plays. So, remember, Shakespeare had the largest and the most comprehensive soul. He was naturally learned and through books, but not through books, but by the reading of nature and all her images. He looked inward and found her there. Further, he says, Shakespeare was the Homer, means he has written his plays just like Homer. Homer is the Greek poet. Shakespeare is English poet and dramatist. Our father of our dramatic poets, means English. Shakespeare was the Homer or father of our dramatic poets. Johnson was the Virgil, of course. He writes like Virgil. The pattern of elaborate writing. He follows Virgil. Johnson follows Virgil. Shakespeare just written like Homer. He says, he criticizes on other dramatists of his age or other dramatists also. He says about Ben Jonson, most learned and judicious writer which any theatre had. He is praising, he is appreciating Ben Jonson's writing style. Okay, Ben Jonson, most learned and judicious writer which any theatre had. You may get these quotations, such quotations in your exam or in any cassette. Beaumont and Fletcher had both the precedent of Shakespeare's wit and natural gifts they improved by study. He talks about Beaumont and Fletcher. They are also writers, contemporary writers of Shakespeare. They come after Shakespeare. What they excelled at was expressing the conversation of the gentleman and the representation of passion, especially of love. What they are excelled in. ಸೊ ಅವರು ಯಾವುದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ವಿಶೇಷತೆಯನ್ನು ಪಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ? ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ದ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಜೆಂಟಲ್ಮನ್. ನೋಬಲ್ ಮೆನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ಡ್. ಅಂಡ್ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಪ್ಯಾಷನ್, ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಆಫ್ love. He also says poetry as imitation. Talks about poetry as imitation. Dryden interpreted mimesis. Mimesis or imitation in social rather than philosophical terms. The objective of imitation is not the Aristotelian representation of an action, but the presentation of an image of human nature. Universal ideas are presenting here, rather representing of an action. That is what imitation according to Dryden. He defends tragic comedy against tragedy. Aristotelian's rules of tragedy. There are contradictory ideas in tragic and comic. They are opposed, right? ಟ್ರಾಜಿಡಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ದುಃಖ, ಕಾಮಿಡಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನಗು ಅಥವಾ ಸುಖದಿಂದ ಇರೋದು ಅಂತ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಆದರೆ ಎರಡೂ ಕೂಡ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾದದ್ದಲ್ವಾ? ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾರಿ ಸೆಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಈಚ್ ಅದರ್. He defends, he recommends for tragic comedy. Why? Comic scene in tragedy refreshes and relieves. From the beginning of the play, you cry and cry. Suddenly you get comedy, which is refreshing. ಅಬ್ಬಾ ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಂದ ಹತ್ತು ನಂಗೆ ಬಾ ವೈಲೆನ್ಸನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ಕಣ್ಣೆಲ್ಲ ಭಯಾನಕವಾಗಿತ್ತಪ್ಪ. ಸಡನ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮಿಡಿ ಬಂತು. It refreshes your mind. So, tragic comedy both in single play is good according to Dryden. Compassion and mirth are found together in nature, like tragedy and comedy. Compassion and mirth are found together in nature. Even in nature we can see both. They do not destroy each other, though they are coexist in nature. They are not bothering each other. They are not destroying each other. Isn't it? Comedy is also there. Tragedy is also there. Nothing is harming another. Tragic comedy is a new way of writing. He recommends it. English writers apply this tragic comedy in their work, unknown to the ancients. So, they are ignorant to the tragic comedy style of writing. So, this is a new invention. So, why do we reject it? Like that, Dryden says he defends tragic comedy. Then he also defends, rhyme. He says, natural words in natural order makes language natural. That is what rhyme. Music, rhythm is there. Natural words in natural order makes language natural. When rhyme is made to look natural, it is sweet. It is acceptable. But blank verse is merely poetic prose. Poetic prose ಅಂದರೆ ಪದ್ಯದ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿರುವಂಥ ಗದ್ಯ ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ವರ್ಸ್ ಬಿರ್ರಿ ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. Only rhymed words made to look natural is suitable for tragedy. He is recommending rhymed words to tragedy. It suits to it. It suits tragedy. Rhyme is used in all civilized nations of the world. So why don't we? Let's accept rhyme. So he is giving all the merits. By giving merits, he is giving the he is leaving the audience to judge whether to choose rhyme, whether to choose ancients or the moderners or the ancients or the French plays. So this is a kind of open ending. He defends rhyme by giving its merits. The moderners cannot excel Elizabethans in black verse. The modern writers cannot excel Elizabethans in blank verse and hence should turn to rhyme. Elizabethans blank verse ಅನ್ನ ಮೀರೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ let's write in rhyme. Why do you bother about some complicated things? Do write it easily so that everyone can understand, which looks natural also. Rhyme is liked by the nobility, whose judgment alone counts, not by the common people but by the nobles. ಸೊ ರಾಜಾದಿರಾಜರು ಅರಿಸ್ಟೋಕ್ರಾಟ್ಸೇ ರೈಮನ್ನು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾವುದು ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ, ಅರಿಸ್ಟೋಕ್ರಾಟ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೋ ಅದೇ ಫೈನಲ್. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅವರೇ ಇದನ್ನು ಮೆಚ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುವಾಗ ವೈ ಶುಡ್ ವಿ ಬಾದರ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಅದರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್? ರೈಮ್ ಈಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದಿ ನೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ. ಸೊ ರೈಮ್ ಈಸ್ ಏಡ್ ಟು ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್. It is an aid. It aids to judgment. So he defends rhyme, English writers, and he rejects three unities. He defends tragic comedy. This is all about Dryden and his critical works. And the defense, he is defending Shakespeare. He compares Chaucer with Homer. He compares Ben Jonson with Virgil. He compares Shakespeare to Homer. Please do remember all these statements and important points. Okay, defense of rhyme, defense of tragic comedy, defense of Shakespeare's writing style, how he is appreciating Chaucer, how he is appreciating Shakespeare. These are all important, and the four characters, who are they representing, what are they discuss about, what are they defend about. So please make correction That is essay on dramatic poesy, not essay of dramatic poesy. Okay, I will make it. Sorry, this is essay on dramatic poesy. Okay, essay on dramatic poesy, 1668. In the same year, he became the poet laureate also. Who? Dryden. I hope you understood regarding Dryden. Thank you so much.